Counting automobiles has allowed Danny Koker to build an empire, but it hasn't always been easy. Some workers didn't simply quit. Even devoted supporters were taken aback by the reasons they were dismissed. They have an amazing store. They provide excellent products, but this one was something that. Danny finally speaks up about the 5 worst team members who have ever entered his garage, ranging from dubious transactions to significant disappointments. Let's get started. Influences and life. Although Danny Koker was born in Cleveland, Ohio, he grew up primarily in Detroit, Michigan, which is regarded as the center of the American auto industry. In Detroit, where I grew up, automobiles were a commonplace sight. Car displays were common, and muscle cars blasted along the streets. This setting wasn't just background noise to Danny. It molded him. His life was significantly influenced by his father, Danny Koker Sr. He was a gifted musician who performed with well-known ensembles such as the Cathedral Quartet. The house was packed with music. However, the roar of engines also did. Due to his father's love of cars, Danny inherited this enthusiasm early on. The majority of Danny's leisure time as a teenager was spent near automobiles. Under the hood, he enjoyed getting his hands filthy. He restored and revitalized vintage automobiles. Danny was obsessed with vintage rides, while other children were more interested in sports or electronic games. Over the years, his passion for vintage muscle vehicles, choppers, and hot rods only deepened. Although Danny had a childhood passion for vehicles, it would take him years to discover his actual vocation. He had no idea that the most unexpected source would provide him with his biggest break. Danny relocated to Las Vegas at the beginning of the 1990s. He loved vehicles, but he was also quite interested in entertainment. He rose to fame as Count Cool Rider, a local TV personality. In this late-night horror movie series, Danny exposed viewers to vintage horror films while dressing as a rock and roll vampire. It was full of personality, corny, and extravagant. And in Vegas, it turned him into a minor cult figure. But Danny never left vehicles, even if Count Cool Rider was laughed at. He opened Count's Customs, a custom shop, first to handle his own collection. People began to take note of his unique builds over time. Danny did more than just fix automobiles, he changed them. His aesthetic combined bright, rebellious elements with reverence for the classics. His hallmark features included roaring engines, low-slung attitudes, and flame paint treatments. Within the Vegas environment, word quickly spread. In an attempt to capture some of Danny's enchantment, celebrities, collectors, and auto enthusiasts started visiting Count's customizations. He never followed trends and was a true gearhead. People respected the rules he established. One custom car at a time, Danny was establishing his reputation. However, fame was still a long way off. When he received a call that would place him on national television, everything would change. Pawn Stars, another popular show, was the reason for Danny's big TV debut. Danny started to come on the show as an authority on cars and also motorcycles because Count's Customs was next to the well-known Gold and Silver pawn shop. The Pawn Stars squad called Danny whenever they needed automobile advice. He was a popular favorite because of his charisma, expertise, and straightforward manner. After producers saw how much the audience enjoyed Danny, the concept for a spin-off was developed. Counting Cars debuted on the History Channel in 2012. The program followed Danny and his crew at Count's Customs as they customized, restored, and revitalized vintage automobiles. Counting Cars was unique from the first episode. It didn't use forced plots or phony drama. Danny's genuine passion for automobiles was evident. The enthusiasm, inventiveness, and personality in the store resonated with the audience. Every episode seemed like a day spent with close friends in the garage, and Danny treated his team like family. One of the most watched car shows on television by the 3rd season was Counting Cars. To see what Danny and his team will create next, millions of people watched. Although the cars were always amazing, the people, the humor, the relationships, the tension, and the victories were what really made the show. Danny became a household name as a result of Counting Cars' success. He had evolved beyond his passion for cars. He was famous on television. A businessman and a representation of traditional values in a world that is changing quickly. Nevertheless, he never allowed his reputation to alter him too much. In both music and automobiles, he remained true to his roots. Danny broadened his brand as well. In order to combine his two greatest passions, motorcycles and music, he founded Count's Vamped Rock Bar and Grill in Las Vegas. Running his enterprises, he continued to tour, manufacture bespoke vehicles, and make appearances. Now that the spotlight was shining stronger, Danny continued to design amazing rides and stick to his vision, which was what really mattered. Together, his loyal group of artists and technicians created something unique with Counting Cars. Danny became famous thanks to Counting Cars, but he never anticipated the cost of his fame. Behind the cameras, issues were already beginning to arise that would put all of his hard work to the test. Reality behind the scenes. On TV, Counting Cars appeared fluid. The builds appeared to be rapid. The group was always having a good time. At the conclusion of each episode, the cars were flawless. However, things weren't always that easy behind the scenes. Fans were never able to witness the tension, strain, and issues that accompanied life inside Count's Customs. Real auto repair takes time. It is detailed, sluggish, and occasionally annoying. One episode of the show features a complete build. That's only roughly half an hour from beginning to end. However, in practice, building or restoring a single car frequently takes weeks or even months. It is necessary to order parts. A few of them are uncommon. Others arrive slowly. In the event that something goes wrong, the team must disassemble the cars, repair the damaged parts, and occasionally start over. In addition, they must test the engine, paint, polish, and ensure that everything functions properly. A brief episode must contain all of that labor. To gather enough video, the TV crew shoots for days. Editors then condense everything into a single, brief piece. This implies that the public has never seen the true amount of work that goes into each car. Danny Koker takes every build's quality very seriously. He doesn't tolerate careless labor. He returns it if the paint appears to be off. The engine needs to be checked again if it makes an odd sound. He puts additional pressure on the team because he wants every car to be flawless. In addition to meeting actual deadlines, the crew must maintain the show's entertainment value. At the same time, that is challenging. To keep up, the squad put in a lot of overtime on some days. A pace like that wore everybody out. Although the demands of TV production were difficult, his team would suffer far more from celebrity. Danny would soon discover that not everyone could cope with the attention. Count's Customs was a tiny store when the show began. The employees resembled a tight family. They enjoyed vehicles, joked, and made fun of one another. That sensation persisted for some time. But everything changed as the show became popular. Overnight, the store gained notoriety. Visitors began to arrive from all around the world. The fans wanted to take pictures, meet the crew, and see the shop. All day, several admirers waited outside. While the team was attempting to work, other people knocked on the doors. Being adored felt good at first. However, it eventually became an issue. The store was no longer merely a commercial enterprise. It was a place for tourists. There was no peace among the crew. Everything was slowed down by the questions, the pictures, and the cacophony. Additionally, fame altered the behavior of several team members. A few employees changed their behavior when the TV cameras began to roll. Some were overly fond of the limelight. Others desired more money or credit. Ego started to cause issues. Co-workers who had once been pals became more tense. It was entirely Danny's to handle. In addition to being the show's face and employer, he was a highly regarded constructor. However, he now had to deal with the demands of TV production as well. Notoriety and expanding business requirements. One man couldn't carry it all. As the store became more well-known, Danny started other companies. He opened a rock bar, made public appearances, and marketed merchandise bearing his trademark. That made his plate even fuller. There were also legal issues. A few former employees brought legal action. Some said they were unfairly treated or owed money. These court battles distracted from the store and increased tension. In order to safeguard his reputation and brand, Danny also needed to ensure that fresh contracts were in place. Once leisure automobile builders now had to sign paperwork, adhere to regulations, and project a particular image on camera. Everyone had a difficult time. By the third or fourth season, the team had changed. Some faces vanished, while others silently departed. Others were let go following heated disputes or drama. Fans observed alterations in the lineup, but the broadcast never displayed all of this. Danny continued to concentrate on the cars. He was always a firm believer in doing things correctly. However, there were times when the pressure overwhelmed him as well. He was maintaining the quality that initially made his store renowned while managing a company, managing a staff, and satisfying fans. At Count's Traditions, fame altered everything, and not necessarily in a positive way. Even devoted supporters were stunned when Danny was betrayed by some of the people he trusted the most. Frontiera, a major behind-the-scenes surprise in the history of counting cars, was delivered by a character that the majority of spectators never saw on TV. Joseph Frontiera was a key figure at Count's Customs, even though he wasn't involved in car painting or construction. He was the bookkeeper for the business. This indicates that he was in charge of the finances, handling payroll, paying bills, and monitoring company spending. Everything appeared to be all right at first. Joseph had a great deal of responsibility. However, odd things began to happen with the shop's finances over time. Danny and his group discovered something significant as they dug deeper. Joseph had embezzled over $75,000 from Count's Customs. It was made worse by the way he did it. He paid for items like a down payment on a Range Rover with business money. He also covered his own travel expenses and airline tickets. There was no error on his part. He was aware of his actions. He even falsified Danny Koker's signature to do it. To hide what he stole, he made false records. Danny and the team were incensed when they learned. This wasn't a little mistake or slip-up. It was treacherous. For someone who was meant to safeguard the shop's finances, the money that could have been used for payroll, construction, or other business necessities was instead used for luxuries. Count's Customs filed a lawsuit in 2016. They brought legal action against both Joseph Frontiera and Randstad USA, the employment agency that had placed him there. According to the store, the agency did not thoroughly investigate his past. When the specifics of the complicated case were made public, fans were taken aback. Joseph had already left the show by the time the news broke. He had actually vanished from episodes with no apparent reason. No farewell sequence, no on-air drama. He simply vanished. Viewers now understood why. He had left a trail of unaccounted for funds and problems with trust. Joseph disappeared from the public eye following the case. There were no significant developments regarding him, and he refrained from public speaking. Fans believe that he is totally off the grid. No interviews, no TV appearances, no social media. It seems as though he vanished after being apprehended. His behavior had a long-lasting effect on the store. Behind the scenes, Danny started to be more cautious about who he trusted. The group ensured that their financial and documentation controls were more stringent. They had to learn that lesson the hard way. Even though Joseph Frontiera didn't paint hot rods or turn wrenches, his acts were just as damaging as any broken engine. Even though the majority of viewers never saw him on air, he sticks out as one of the worst staffers the show ever had for counting automobiles fans. Even if Joseph's thievery was terrible, Danny would still have financial difficulties. In a very different way, the next employee on our list would give us even more trouble. Scott Jones. When counting automobiles started, Scott Jones was among the first people fans noticed. In addition to managing the store, he assisted with bookkeeping. He put forth extra effort behind the scenes to maintain timelines, finances, and organization. Scott kept everything on course, at least on paper, while Danny Koker was the show's creative power and public face. Scott's powerful personality was immediately apparent to viewers in the first season. He didn't hold back and was direct and sincere. His primary responsibility was to ensure that funds were not spent, which frequently resulted in conflicts with Danny. Danny occasionally sought to push the boundaries and had lofty goals for the builds. Scott was there to control expenses, make sure business comes first, and remind the staff of the budget. Particularly on camera, this created a great deal of tension. When things looked to go out of control, Scott would challenge Danny, question prices, and push back on crazy ideas. The back and forth amused some fans. Others said it caused a genuine rift. In practically every episode of the first 2 seasons, it was evident that the two had different styles. Then, however, an odd event occurred. Scott left after season 2. No grandiose spectacle, farewell, or explanation was present. He was in the shop one day overseeing building and doing math. Then he vanished the next day. As soon as they noticed, fans began to inquire. Online rumors started to circulate. He was fired, according to others, for financial mismanagement. Others believed there was a more serious struggle going on behind the scenes. The show never clearly addressed the exit, and none of those assertions were ever validated. Subsequent studies reveal that the situation is actually much simpler. For personal reasons, Scott relocated to Tennessee. He desired a closer relationship with his family. And neither drama nor money played a role in the decision. It had to do with priorities and changes in life. There are instances when leaving a job is about more than just it. Off camera, it's about what really counts. Scott has stayed busy ever since. In Tennessee, he currently owns and operates Koker's Extreme Automotive. He even had an appearance on the automobile and collectibles-focused Netflix series Swap Shop. Even though he may no longer be involved in automobile counting, he is still doing what he loves, working with cars and making sure everything is in good order. Despite not being a fan favorite, Scott Jones was crucial to the show's early development. He was the person who said no while everyone else shouted yes, the gruff voice of reason. Even though he went quietly, his time on the show had an impact. For family reasons, Scott quietly departed. However, not all of the people that vanished from the show had such naive intentions. The character in our upcoming story was someone that fans adored until they learned the truth. Bravo, Sabo. From seasons 2 through 6, Rolly Sabo was one of the most adored characters on Counting Cars. He was the lead detailer for the shop, ensuring that each vehicle left Count's Kustoms in the greatest possible condition. Raleigh was well known for more than only his work, though. He added something unique to the screen as well. Character. Raleigh grinned broadly and spoke with a strong Hungarian accent. He had a lot of energy, was witty, and was always up for a joke or a silly moment. He made the store lively by dancing and telling jokes, and maintaining a cheerful attitude despite long workdays. Fans adored him for striking a balance between humor and hard labor. Raleigh was there for more than simply amusement, though. When it came to details, he was an absolute perfectionist. He ensured that every part of the automobile, whether it was a rare vintage or a bespoke lowrider, was immaculate and sparkling. His disposition complemented his abilities. He was respected by the workers, and the admirers were enamored. Raleigh was a fan favorite by season 4. Fans praised his attention to detail, shared his funniest moments, and discussed him on social media. He was one of the few cast members that added humor to the program without ever coming across as forced. His work felt authentic, as did his laughs. Then an unforeseen event occurred. It was reported in 2017 that the shop's detailing equipment had vanished. It was more than a few little tools. Professional equipment costing thousands of dollars was gone. Raleigh was gone shortly after that as well. There was no explanation or warning when he left the show. He spent a week there cracking jokes and polishing vehicles. The following. The crew had not seen him. No farewell on screen. Nothing about what transpired. Nothing but quiet. Later, rumors circulated that Raleigh might be connected to the missing equipment. Silent rumors circulated that he stole the tools and never came back. Count's Kustoms never issued a formal statement to the public. However, there were concerns about the timing of the heist and his departure. Fans were taken aback by Rowley's unexpected passing. Many people didn't think he could be involved in such a thing. Others were just saddened by the unresolved disappearance of one of their favorite cast members. Rowley, however, did not completely vanish. He has remained in Las Vegas and started his own company in the years after his appearance on the show. Rock and Rowley, Unique Accents. He still works on automobiles, concentrating on the same meticulous details for which he was renowned for counting vehicles. His company has a devoted following and keeps him in touch with the people he knows the best. Danny's trust difficulties with his team began with Rowley's lost equipment, but the next departure would be far more painful because it meant losing one of the shop's most skilled constructors. Eichow, Shannon. The loudest person in the room was never Shannon Eichow. He wasn't as funny as Rowley. Unlike some others, he refrained from arguing on camera. However, Shannon was an absolute master at creating custom motorcycles. He was composed, laser-focused, and incredibly gifted. He put his own stamp of perfection on every bike he touched and every line he welded. He was one of the shop's real painters. Shannon was Counting Cars' lead motorbike builder and contributed to some of the show's most recognizable models. He produced neat, daring, and imaginative work. He took his time. He took no shortcuts. He created soulful bikes that were as beautiful to look at as they were to ride. Shannon put his all into every project, whether it was a mean street cruiser, a low-slung helicopter, or a deeply meaningful homage construction. Despite coming across as a calm person, his love of motorcycles was evident. Supporters valued his calm demeanor and solid hands. Shannon worked in the background to ensure that the task was completed correctly while others took front stage. Shannon was one of the most reliable crew members from the first few seasons of Counting Cars. He was constantly present and constantly constructing, and consistently producing excellent work. In a world full of famous people, his style was unique. As a craftsman, he let the bikes speak for themselves. However, things began to change as the show gained popularity. Fans noticed that Shannon was showing up less and less during season 7. He spent less time on screens. He was hardly visible in certain episodes. Additionally, he was largely absent by the next season. No major altercation, no dramatic departure, no scenario in which Danny bid farewell, and no suggestion of problems were there. Shannon simply lost attention over time. What then took place? According to insiders and season watchers, the change was caused by creative differences. The show lent more towards drama and storytelling as Counting Automobiles gained popularity. More tense situations, more arguments, and more outrageous incidents. Although it increased ratings, not everyone was happy about it, particularly Shannon. He had centered his life on genuine craftsmanship and hard effort. He wasn't present to contribute. He wanted to avoid the turmoil and manufacture amazing bikes. Shannon became less interested in appearing on the show as the cameras shifted their attention from builds to stories. His subdued manner ran counter to the fast-paced, TV-friendly world that Counting Cars was becoming. And Shannon made a different decision rather than griping or making a scene. As he had always done, he moved away in silence. No responsibility was assigned, no public declaration was made, and no animosity was expressed. Shannon didn't stop building, he just moved on. Not at all. Shannon ICO is still quite involved in the Las Vegas motorcycle scene today. He still designs and builds bikes with the same attention to detail and expertise that he has always had. His job hasn't slowed down even if he isn't on screen anymore. His name is still well known in the customs community, and people continue to notice his motorcycles. Shannon is a symbol of a distinct sort of success in many respects. He didn't seek notoriety. To remain on camera, he didn't alter who he was. He stayed true to his passion, creating exquisite devices by hand. And he left with calm dignity when the show no longer aligned with that goal. Not all car counting deviations resulted in legal action, tool theft, or controversy behind the scenes. Shannon has a distinct story. It all comes down to keeping loyal to your art despite distractions like lights and cameras. He is still discussed by fans. When he left, some people feel the program lost something, and they're probably right. Shannon provided equilibrium. Class was something he brought. Above all, he contributed genuine talent that didn't require exaggerated speech or outrageous tales. Shannon maintained his reputation by leaving with dignity and class. However, our last tale illustrates the worst potential outcome of ego and creativity colliding. Mike Henry. Mike Henry, known to his admirers as Horny Mike, brought color, excitement, and a great deal of fun to car counting with his horned helmet, wild mohawks, and audacious personality. Mike was more than a walking cartoon, though. He was a creative person. An actual one. Possessing a unique style and significant talent. He was Kustoms' chief airbrush artist. It was his responsibility to create unique masterpieces out of vehicles, motorcycles, and helmets. Mike added the last touch of magic while other crew members took care of the bodywork and mechanics. With his use of flames, skulls, murals, and metallic fades, a basic automobile may become something very remarkable. Prior to joining the shop, Mike worked in 3D sculpting and custom paint. He had a creative edge because of his background, and Danny Koker noticed. He was allowed to express himself by Danny, and the collaboration was fruitful for a while. Mike's designs were distinctive, and followers were thrilled to see what crazy concept he would think of next. He soon rose to prominence as one of the show's most recognizable characters. He became a fan favorite because of his voice, painting, and attire. He provided personality, cracked jokes, and made every episode hilarious. Beneath the joy, though, was a man who took his work seriously. Every project held a special place in his heart, putting in extra time to improve the details. However, it wasn't always simple to work in a place like Kustoms while being watched by television cameras. Mike held strong beliefs. His concepts were audacious, maybe a bit too audacious for Danny's vision. Creative conflicts began to occur throughout time. Mike desired greater latitude to push limits. As the proprietor of the store, Danny had to maintain the brand's integrity and keep everything on point. This led to a tug-of-war between two gifted individuals who were passionate about their work. Mike wanted to use a lot of color, texture, and wild patterns. Danny occasionally needed a simpler, more timeless appearance. They were not always in agreement. Additionally, tension results from combining strong personalities. Additionally, Mike began to feel the strain of production. TV has strict deadlines. Waiting for inspiration isn't always an option. Art must be delivered according to a timeline. And true creativity doesn't operate like that. Mike began to feel the effects of the pressure. Although the event required quick turnarounds, excellent airbrushing takes time. Blending colors, applying paint layers, and creating the ideal image. It can take hours or even days to complete. Mike started to back off as the seasons progressed. He spent less time on screens. He no longer showed up in every episode. Furthermore, his function appeared to be smaller even when he did appear. He continued to assist with large projects, but he was not as involved in the action as he once was. The alteration was noticed by fans. A lot of people questioned whether something had gone awry. Others believed he had left the store. However, the reality was more nuanced. Mike didn't go furious. He was not let go. He simply began to concentrate on his own course. Mike now owns and operates Horny Mike Designs. He makes helmets, accessories, and custom sprayed artwork. He continues to repair automobiles and motorcycles, but he does so under his own name and trademark. He appears at fan gatherings, auto shows, and even other television commercials. He continues to be quite busy in the custom design industry. Mike maintains a connection to the Count's traditions despite moving further into his own domain. He isn't entirely gone. He continues to assist when needed and stop by for special tasks. Just a change of focus, no animosity. The story of Mike Henry illustrates what occurs when a genuine artist works in a fast-paced environment such as reality television. He added color, flair, and a memorable touch to the presentation. However, he had to leave the spotlight in order to be loyal to his art. His flamboyant energy, strong lines, and crazy horns are still remembered by his fans. Whether they were embezzlers or artists in need of space, these former employees helped create counting vehicles in ways that fans will never forget, and his creations have made a lasting impression. While some exits made a mark, others were quiet and untidy. Are you interested in additional behind-the-scenes glimpses at your favorite shows? To ensure you never miss anything that TV doesn't tell you, like, share, and subscribe.